This video is sponsored by Surfshark VPN. Hey YouTube, Joeboy here. So, when Shanks was first introduced at the very beginning of the story, if you had asked me, I would have said that he's a pretty straightforward character. He's a man of two great loves. He loves partying and he loves kicking the butt of people who hurt his friends. Two simple things which makes an incredibly badass character. You'll love to see it. We got the general impression that he was somebody who put all of his eggs in the Monkey D. Luffy basket. He had the belief, he had the faith that Luffy would one day become a great pirate. Maybe accomplish something incredible. And all I really knew was that at some point Shanks would help him. After he seasoned up a bit on his own. Well guys, if you were certain about who Shanks was at the beginning of the story and where we are now, wow, things have changed. It's happened so smoothly you can almost miss it. When did Shanks become more comparable to a character like Blackbeard rather than characters like Luffy or Roger? Seriously, this is not a joke. He's manipulating everybody. Suddenly he is not predictable. It's hard to call him straightforward. So maybe we need to reevaluate who Shanks is, what he has already done, and what he might do in the future. But if you're excited about this, remember to like the video, subscribe, click the bell to be notified. You guys already know we're cooking over here. But every theory has to start somewhere, right? We're trying to live inside of Shanks' mind, and sometimes you need a bit of help. And conveniently, that help is being provided today by our sponsor, Surfshark VPN. Look guys, it's 2024. VPNs are essential, especially with Shanks on the loose. There is a very good reason that Blackbeard wanted Van Augur to have the warp fruit, because he knew the power of the VPN. Change your virtual location instantly, using the literal thousands of servers in hundreds of countries provided by Surfshark. And it's actually more like a bunch of different powers combined, because this fruit allows you to protect your data as well. It's basically internet armament hockey you can buy. Such a broken ability has never been so easily obtained. So don't let internet rats or internet armament hockey stop you from doing what you really want to do. Red font Netflix thinks they're so smart, region locking certain content. Fortunately, you guys have already been perfecting your One Piece laugh, just for occasions like this. They think that they can keep hiding the truth of the world. Not today. So click the link in the description to download and use my code JOYBOY to get an extra 3 months free. And if for whatever reason you're not happy, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee. So the power has literally no downsides. It's possibly blasphemous to compare Shanks to Blackbeard and not Goldie Roger. So let me show my work. In the past, Shanks and crew attacked a government ship in order to acquire the Gomu Gomu no Mi. Shanks has not pursued devil fruits as far as we know at any other point in the story. He also has not attacked the government at all at any other point in the story. Both of these things make this event unique. Most likely not a thing of random chance. Given what we know about the fruit now, the Nika fruit, it's past its history, I think that it's fair to assume that Shanks probably knew the nature of the fruit and its importance. This is absolutely something he could have learned from the other Roger pirates after they had made it to Laugh-Tale. We know for a fact through Zunisha that Joyboy possessed this fruit, and Joyboy is the main character of the Poneglyphs. So in my opinion, Shanks' goal here was to keep the fruit out of the world government's hands, and then have the fruit, to either eat the fruit himself or give to somebody of his choosing. But I want to make sure that we address this, right? Logic is not always a huge part of One Piece. Everything doesn't have to necessarily make realistic sense. Fate and destiny is a thing, but you gotta admit it's pretty incredible that Shanks knew where the Gomu Gomu no Mi was pretty much the moment that the government acquired it. I think that this was a huge event, like a story arc onto itself. We see members of Cypherpole, including Who's Who, traveling with the Gomu Gomu no Mi. I think we should assume that the government's plot to obtain this fruit was similar to what CP9 did in Enies Lobby in Water 7 attempting to acquire the Pluton. Who's Who was a former member of CP9. CP9 acts differently than all of the other Cypherpole agencies. It's a secret division which shouldn't exist. They do not act in the open. And in chapter 346 of One Piece, Lucci states the reason for this. It's because they are allowed to assassinate civilians. So if a powerful criminal possessed the Gomu Gomu no Mi, CP9 probably wouldn't be involved. Instead, it would be in the Marines or some other legal form of justice. Their presence guarding the Gomu Gomu no Mi itself implies that they stole this fruit from some law-abiding citizen. And based on the dialogue from Who's Who in chapter 1054, they weren't even aware of how important the fruit was. So taking the fruit was probably an inconsequential detail tacked on to whatever else they were trying to do, or just did. So I think for Shanks to be on them the moment that they actually have it implies that he was doing the same. He tracked that fruit just as closely as the government. But I think it's through this that the Blackbeard comparisons become evident. Guys, it wasn't until after Luffy ate the Gomu Gomu no Mi that Shanks became a yonko. We learned this in chapter 957. Yonko here being defined as a powerful pirate, one of the 4 greatest who have camped themselves in the New World and have territory. And we also know that Shanks possessed a bounty just barely over 1 billion in Film Red. Essentially, I think that it can be assumed that Shanks waited to attempt to become a yonko until after he had found the fruit and Luffy had eaten it. This was an intentional step in his plan. He first needed to find a very specific fruit before he really made a name for himself. This is a direct parallel to Blackbeard and his search for the Yami Yami no Mi. We'll eventually get to more Blackbeard parallels later in the video, but once you realize that Shanks patiently waited for the Gomu Gomu no Mi before really taking his place in the world, you realize that his story is all about that fruit. Just the same as Blackbeard, had he never found that fruit, it's very possible Shanks never becomes a yonko. But at this point, this really isn't a mystery anymore, is it? By traveling with Gold D. Roger, Shanks already knows what the One Piece is. Basically, there's no doubt that Roger talked about what he read on the poneglyphs through the adventure. Shanks, at the very least, knows huge parts of it. But if we're assuming that the Roger pirates learned that Joy Boy possessed the Gomu Gomu no Mi from the poneglyphs and that Shanks possesses this knowledge, then he knows far more than just a little bit of it. It's not as if somebody like Rayleigh is shy about the truth. He straight up asked the Straw Hats, hey, do you want to know? Our boy Rayleigh's got some loose lips. He was going to tell them, although he advised against it. This is what Rayleigh said: even if I told you everything in history right now, there is nothing you could do about it. And that is precisely the point. What is the purpose in becoming a yonko? It's to find the One Piece. Or if you're like Whitebeard, you just like it there and you're looking to find family members. Look, we're gonna ignore Whitebeard. That dude was just straight up different. He was content with his life. In a sense, Whitebeard obtained his treasure. That was his crew. And really, everything else was about protecting them, as well as the islands that he loved in the New World. If he left, they would all be destroyed. But for everybody else, there's something else that they wanted. A treasure of some sort that they needed to find. And the One Piece is supposed to fulfill these desires. By finding it, they all believe that their greatest wish will be fulfilled, whatever that might be. But the thing is that Shanks and Rayleigh know the truth. In fact, I think the poneglyphs, once you read them, reveals the truth. The One Piece is kind of useless unless the right person finds it. Roger discovered this firsthand. He had some life left following Laugh Tale, but he couldn't do anything with the One Piece. As he said himself, he was simply born too soon. And as is implied through Odin, they had a pretty good guess about when the correct time would be. In 20 years. It was pretty freaking spot on, scarily so. And this fate, or this destiny, seems intertwined with the return of Joy Boy. Joy Boy who possessed the Nika fruit. So yeah, in my opinion, Shanks knew that there was pretty much no point to doing anything at all until the fruit appeared. Seriously. Regardless of whether Shanks could find the One Piece or not, there would be nothing that he could do about it. So instead, he spent a lot of his time looking for the fruit and potentially thinking about what he might do with it. But we of course know that that decision was taken out of Shanks' hands when Luffy decided to eat the fruit. Fate is sometimes unkind, or very kind. One of those two things. Look guys, what I'm about to say I've actually already speculated in a video, so I'll try to make this more concise. I think that it's interesting to consider whether or not Shanks intended to eat the fruit himself, or was in some way conflicted about doing so. I think that he knew the secrets of the world. He searched for the fruit, he found it, he could potentially have eaten it, and then attempted to become the person of prophecy. This is just another way that Shanks' journey foils that of Blackbeard. When Blackbeard's friend found the Yami Yami no Mi, Blackbeard killed him in order to possess it. Believe it or not, I do think that Blackbeard had some love for Thatch. It's just that his personal ambition or personal desires trumped that. Obviously, when Luffy ate the Gomu Gomu no Mi, Shanks could not do the same, and it's for the exact opposite reason. But straight up guys, my theory about Shanks is he absolutely was contemplating eating the fruit himself. That is, in fact, what he had always wanted from childhood. He wanted to follow in Gold Roger's footsteps. He wanted to inherit his dreams and do what he could not. And the secret sauce here, the main ingredient he needed in order to accomplish this, was the Gomu Gomu no Mi. He needed to be Joy Boy. But the thing is guys, is I think that Shanks knew too much. It's not only about possessing this fruit, there's other signs of the return of Joy Boy, and I'm 100% convinced that one of these signs is that the person has to be of the family D. But as we've learned recently, Shanks is of the Figureland family, he's a celestial dragon. The D is an enemy to gods. Ds are enemies to celestial dragons. Even if Shanks wanted to be Joy Boy, I believe that he thought that he was disqualified. And I honestly think that Roger told him this to his face. This is a parallel that Shanks and Blackbeard share. In Marineford, when Whitebeard was thinking about the initial D, he looked at Teach and he said, "It's definitely not you. You're not the person that Roger was waiting for." Something I think that Roger basically told directly to Shanks. So to absolutely and totally make up what Roger said, Joy Boy will be of the family D. I think it's going to be my son. Please watch out for when he becomes a pirate and help him. Roger literally says that though. He literally says that he thinks it's gonna be his son. And it's then that you realize that had Luffy not accidentally eaten the Gomu Gomu no Mi, it would seem probable that the next step in Shanks' adventure would be to find Roger's son to give him the fruit. This was literally Roger's will. Ace would have instead had the Gomu Gomu no Mi. It's possible that Shanks was waiting in the East Blue for the correct moment to encounter Ace, or otherwise wait for the child to grow up. So you have the parallel between Shanks and Blackbeard of their mentors telling them, "You're not that guy." But within this, you also have a foil. Blackbeard Z-ha-ha'd right in Whitebeard's face. And opposite to this, I believe that Shanks cried. I'll go ahead and link my full theory video talking about this because we add a few other points to it, if you're bored. So Shanks didn't believe him to be the person that Roger was waiting for, most probably because Roger directly told him that, because he was not of the family D. So Shanks' ambition in life changed, and this is the reason that he told Buggy that he wasn't going to go find the One Piece. At the time, Shanks was still incredibly young, somewhere around 16. This leads directly into Shanks' void years, after Roger's execution, but before he met Luffy. We know the whole time that Shanks was a pirate, and if you just compare Shanks to Luffy, right, Luffy, at less than 20 years old, has already become a yonko. Shanks could have done the same thing, in my opinion. But as we've already speculated, this was not his objective. Despite being rejected by Roger as a candidate, Shanks took up Roger's will. He intended to find and help Joy Boy, whoever that person ended up being. So in part, yes, he was looking for the Gomu Gomu no Mi because that fruit he knew would become vital. But that's not the only thing that he was doing. He also needed to find the person who was supposed to eat the fruit, while grappling with whether or not he would eat it himself. So guys, I think it's pretty intuitive that the thing that Shanks focused on was the point which mattered most to him, and that's that Joy Boy was supposed to be of the family D. If you're looking for the person who's supposed to eat the fruit, that's a pretty easy criteria to begin with. Shanks actively sought out people in the Grand Line as a pirate that possessed the initial D. And so this possibly explains one of the greatest mysteries in Shanks' story, his encounter with Blackbeard. Marshall D. Teach. Low-key, this is a big moment in One Piece theory history. I googled it out of curiosity. I don't believe there has ever been a really compelling theory for how and why Shanks got his scar. We'll get back to it in a moment. So here's what we know. Oda's actually been really deceptive about when exactly Shanks received his scar, because Oda doesn't actually show Shanks' face when he recruits Yasopp. But I think it's just logical here. Remember that Shanks' scar is the prominent feature of his Jolly Roger, so he pretty much must have had it by the time that he founded his crew. Although Shanks was initially unsuccessful, we see him attempting to recruit Yasopp 22 years before the current timeline of the story, 2 years after Roger's execution. This strangely occurred in the East Blue, not really the normal place that Grand Line pirates look to recruit new members. So that is, in my opinion, the rough timeline of when the red-haired pirates were born, 22 years ago. I also want you to understand that I believe Shanks to be a meticulous planner. He does things in a stepwise fashion, meaning after Roger's execution, there was something very specific that Shanks intended on doing, which stalled the formation of the red-haired pirates. We recently learned in chapter 1082, Shanks' conversation with Buggy about not pursuing Laugh-Tale, he did not possess the scar. This was around the time of Gold Roger's execution 24 years ago. So we have a missing 2-year period from Gold Roger's execution to the formation of the red-haired pirates, where I believe that Shanks encountered Blackbeard and received his scar. So what was Shanks actually doing at this time? I'm gonna kind of pull this one out of my ass, but it makes a lot of sense to me. I think the first thing that Shanks wanted to do following Roger's death was find Ace. If you guys recall, Roger told Garp about Ace as he was already imprisoned. So Shanks wouldn't know about that. But given that Roger seemed to know that his child was in danger, it would make sense for him to tell somebody else as well. Or maybe Shanks arrived to the same conclusion, independently. So Shanks began his adventure alone looking for Ace, at the very same time that the Marines were, most probably also considering candidates for his future pirate crew. Like with Yasopp, for instance, before he'd even met the man, he had chosen him as a prospect. But we know that Portgas D. Rouge was able to postpone Ace's birth for 20 months. We also see that Garp was there spare the moment that Ace was born and not Shanks. So whether or not Shanks actually found Ace is unclear. But yeah, you better believe I don't think that it's a coincidence that in Chapter 0, the Strong World chapter of One Piece, we see Garp take Ace to Windmill Village with Makino. At the time, we see Ace is a crawling baby, and this is roughly where we've speculated that the red-haired pirates were truly born. Logically, however, it just seems right that Shanks circled Windmill Village as a location of interest, because that is where he later meets Luffy. The world is a pretty big place. Pretty crazy coincidence that Shanks is hanging out in a place where Ace previously spent time. Windmill Village is located very near Mount Corvo, where Ace was raised by Dadan. And in fact, in the Ace novel, which is supposed to be canon, Ace reveals or confirms that he had a good relationship with Makino. She coached him about how he would introduce himself to Shanks. So do I think that Shanks found Ace? Yes, I do. In fact, I think that is why Shanks returned to Windmill Village after he'd found the Gomu Gomu no Mi, so he could give the kid the fruit, or think it over. Honestly, that makes a lot of sense to me. So the only thing left is to fit Blackbeard into this. Something I don't see people bringing up is in the Ace novel, which again is supposed to be canon, Chapter 5 if you're curious. Shanks reveals that he received his scar from Blackbeard in the East Blue. Shanks just doesn't tell Ace that he received it from Blackbeard. We've already speculated why Shanks was in the East Blue. Now we just need to know why Blackbeard was there. I don't actually have an answer. Not a definitive one, but I do think that we can guess. I find it unlikely that Blackbeard traveled with the entirety of the Whitebeard pirates to the East Blue. Whitebeard has things to do in the New World, we've already covered that. But it's not totally unprecedented for members of the Whitebeard pirates to temporarily leave. Ace did that. Maybe Blackbeard wanted to visit the place where Gold D. Roger was born and died. It's not crazy. It's even possible that Blackbeard was present for Gold Roger's execution, even though that has not been revealed yet. Either way, the only lead that I have for why Blackbeard would be in the East Blue is Goldie Roger. But that's enough for now. What we've done is we set up a one-on-one encounter between Shanks and Blackbeard before Shanks acquired his crew, which frankly makes a ton of sense. In chapter 434, Shanks had to explain to Whitebeard how he got his scar from Blackbeard, meaning Whitebeard was not there. So I see it two ways. First, it's possible that Shanks met Blackbeard by chance, either shortly after Gold Roger's execution or a year or so later, as they were both visiting the place that Roger died. Or maybe while Shanks was in the East Blue, he heard rumors that Blackbeard was there and sought him out, because he's a member of the family D. Either way, they meet, and Shanks is most probably curious, because although he thinks Ace will be Joy Boy, he's still evaluating candidates. Maybe there could have been something specific about Blackbeard which made him an intriguing candidate. For instance, his weird body. The prophecies could mention something like this. If Joy Boy was supposed to return and Joy Boy possessed the Nika fruit, Luffy's body is definitely very weird. At least after having eaten the fruit. I could see language alluding to this, but I very much doubt that Shanks intended to attack Blackbeard. As we see at the very beginning of the story, Shanks fights when there's purpose to. But we know that Shanks did not let his guard down, despite the fact that Blackbeard was still really a no-name. This is important to understand about Blackbeard. He maintained a really low-key identity among the Whitebeard pirates. He acquired a bounty of 0. This is only possible if Blackbeard intentionally hid his power level the entire time. So Shanks probably didn't attack Blackbeard. Blackbeard was the one that attacked him. Why would Blackbeard have done that? Guys, I'm going to drop a link in the description for a Blackbeard theory I just made titled Blackbeard's True Plan. A lot of people are really enjoying it. You can watch it after this one if you're interested. But what you need to know from it, we speculate that Blackbeard's goal the entire time was to become Joy Boy. He wants to fulfill the prophecy. And by the time that we actually get the prophecy in the story, Blackbeard will actually fit it, even though we know it's Luffy. But this is something that Blackbeard has not openly revealed to anybody, because for Blackbeard, knowledge is power. And we also talk at great length about Blackbeard's mindset, how he thinks, because to predict what he might do, you need to understand his brain. But important among this is his belief in fate. Blackbeard is also not somebody who squanders opportunities when they present themselves. So I think that he saw his meeting with Shanks as fate, and also an opportunity, but not for notoriety or personal gain. At this point, Shanks doesn't possess anything. He doesn't even have a crew. So again, what would be the point of attacking him? Especially as Blackbeard is a character who does not take unnecessary risks. Guys, the only thing that makes any sense to me is Blackbeard viewed Shanks as a Joy Boy candidate. Blackbeard marked Shanks as his rival, the student of Gold D. Roger who traveled with him. Blackbeard knew, even 20 years ago, that killing Shanks would become an important part of his plan to become Joy Boy himself. But more specifically, I think that the prophecies of Joy Boy, which Blackbeard may know, includes a character just like Shanks. So Blackbeard thought he had to attack him then and there. And it was the only time that Blackbeard revealed his true strength. We're gonna come back to this at the end of the video. Your mind will be blown. So let's get back to Shanks and tie off a few things. So I thought about talking about the potential of Shanks being jealous of Luffy, which I do actually think could be a real thing. Is it possible somewhere deep within his soul that he was kind of hoping that Luffy would fail? And maybe this could provide Shanks with a chance to attempt to become Joy Boy himself, like a desperate hope. But despite saying it, I really don't think that it's worth the time. I just simply think that Shanks is a better man than that. And you can't overlook the fact that he gave his arm up for Luffy. And anytime we see him off screen talking about Luffy, like, that man is smiling. He loves Luffy. So with this being established, there's no real good way to make Shanks an adversary to Luffy. Like, Roger has this conversation of fate, destiny, and dreams, and essentially my headcanon is that Shanks looked up to Roger so fully that he basically adopted some of these beliefs. Roger raised Shanks after all. This is kind of a normal thing to happen. I think that Shanks is a big believer in fate, and so when Luffy happened to eat the fruit and was also of the family D, also related to a very powerful Marine Vice Admiral and hero and revolutionary, he's also over here quoting Gold D. Roger as a child. You know, that probably means something. So did Shanks intend to give Luffy the fruit? No. At least not at the moment that Luffy actually ate it. But once it happened, Shanks was always on Team Luffy. He literally tells us that he bet his arm on the future, clearly referring to Luffy as the future. I think practically everything that Shanks has done since that moment is for him. Shanks became a Yonko to manipulate the New World for Joy Boy, or Luffy, preventing any other pirate from rising above the others. Essentially maintaining the Yonko was important, maintaining the balance as it was. I think it was also important that the world government was not too antagonized before the appropriate time. This is why Shanks did not fight with Whitebeard to rescue Ace, even though he may have wanted to. While Blackbeard and Shanks have ultimately played very similar roles and have orchestrated every move with care, the ultimate foil between the two is that Blackbeard almost always does what he wants to, while Shanks almost always sacrifices what he wants. Basically, he left the Whitebeard pirates to fend for themselves and let fate decide, but knew it was not yet time for the world government to fall, and a Yonko alliance to create that could inspire something the world was not yet ready for, and Luffy was not yet ready for. This is also probably why he stopped Kaido. Even Shanks' meeting with the Gorosei served some purpose relating to Luffy, whatever that might have been. Even if we learn later that the pirate that Shanks warned the Gorosei about was Luffy, which is a possibility, but I'll spare you the discussion today. But there is one thing, however, that we can't ignore, because it doesn't make a lot of sense. It should be simple and straightforward. Everything that Shanks is doing is to help Luffy, in one way or another. But in chapter 1054 of One Piece, Shanks tells us that he has decided that he will pursue the One Piece. And so you have to ask the question, how does this benefit Luffy? Think about where we're at in the story right now. Luffy has awakened his devil fruit. He's one of the 4 Yonko. He is clearly one of the most powerful individuals in the story. Shanks, as his ally and not his enemy, could be game-changing. But when Shanks told his crew that he was going to pursue the One Piece, he said it to them in private, in a way in which we know that he is not lying. It seriously seems like they intend to stand in Luffy's way. And this makes sense because Luffy intends to take down Shanks just the same. He said, I'm going to take down all 4 Yonko. Why does it have to be this way? You guys should already know my answer by now. Luffy may not be planning to become Joy Boy, but he is on that path. And Shanks has helped make it so, in whatever large or small way. I think that Shanks knows something else that Luffy needs to do. Luffy needs to beat him. It's his prophesized destiny. So here I probably gotta show my work again. As I said earlier, this theory presupposes that Blackbeard intends on becoming Joy Boy. That has been his plan all along, and I believe that we will discover that Blackbeard actually could be Joy Boy because he fits the signs, all the way up to a climactic fight with Luffy in which Blackbeard might be able to obtain the Nika fruit. So I guess we have to address the elephant in the room. Just how in depth is the prophecy of Joy Boy? We honestly do not have an answer to this, so I could be very wrong. But at the same time, Odin knew the precise year that Joy Boy was supposed to appear, and he knew exactly what the country of Wano needed to do before that day, which is pretty darn specific. So my belief is that the prophecy is vague enough that more than one character might fit it, but it contains a lot of prophecies or a lot of details. And you should think about these prophecies similar to the prophecy prophecy in Fishman Island or Toki's speech. In both cases, the prophet had a very distinct visual. Okay, so if we are arguing that Blackbeard will fit these details the same as Luffy, what has actually occurred in Blackbeard's story could reveal aspects of the prophecy that even Luffy has yet to fulfill. So what do we know that Blackbeard has or has done that Luffy hasn't? Well guys, Blackbeard killed 2 of his mentors, Thatch and Whitebeard. It may be foretold that Joy Boy is supposed to defeat his mentor, and Shanks, having the full prophecy, knew that. Look guys, even if this doesn't end up becoming true, you have to admit that this is cool and adds a dimension to Shanks' story not currently there. Shanks' story becomes very tragic. From the very beginning, he's been a slave to this prophecy, so much so that he almost intentionally crushed his own dreams. Like, even if it's true that Roger didn't believe Shanks to be Joy Boy because he wasn't a D, Shanks could actually still have been a D. The secret initial is a thing. Or maybe all he needed to do was say F it and then tack the D onto his name, claim it as his own, which could possibly have fulfilled a prophecy. Like guys, would you really be surprised if it was revealed at some point that Blackbeard actually did that? He was never really a D, he just claimed it? Or getting wildly tinfoil, I'll take a step back. What's so tragic about this in my mind is, if this is true, Shanks made himself the mentor to Joy Boy intentionally, knowing that his role to play was to eventually be defeated. And that's just sad, man. Maybe somewhere within Shanks he felt that fit him, that he deserved that, because he was a celestial dragon by birth. It was always supposed to be that Joy Boy, as a member of the D family, was an enemy to celestial dragons and gods like Shanks. That was simply his destiny. But either way, this makes you think about Shanks giving Luffy his hat in a totally different way that I do find to be profound. But of course, we haven't quite completed the theory. Look guys, Shanks has had a very unusual interest in Blackbeard from the very beginning. Like, that dude literally attacked him one time, and then afterwards, it's just a lifelong grudge. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. At least it doesn't make a whole lot of sense unless you consider what Shanks knows about the prophecy. Straight up, I think that Shanks believes that Blackbeard is actually a Joy Boy candidate, but the one that he definitely does not want to support. This is why he is so afraid of Blackbeard. So let's bring it all together. Red hair is noted in the story as a very unique color. This is why Shanks' crew is called the Red-Haired Pirates. This is also probably why it's highly suspected that Shanks is of the Figureland family despite being found in a treasure chest by Goldie Roger, because red-colored hair is rare. Hold that thought. Throughout the entire story, Shanks is not particularly cruel or brutal. He's just not. This is why fans found it so strange to learn that the person who took Eustace Kid's arm was Shanks. He literally cut that shit off, which is pretty metal. It was also pretty interesting because fans noticed a peculiar similarity. Honestly, a hilarious similarity. When Shanks cut off Eustace Kid's arm, there was now 2 red-haired characters that were missing their left arms. Oh, and they also both have scars over their left eye. Like, maybe Shanks was lonely. He needed a spiritual soulmate. But you gotta remember, guys, that practically everything that Shanks does, he does for Luffy. A lot of people think that following the recent events in the story, Shanks has defeated Eustace Kid, and Eustace Kid is just done. He's dead and in the bottom of the ocean somewhere. But I really doubt that. So long as he lives, Eustace Kid has already proven that he has an uncrushable spirit. If Kaido couldn't do it in Wano, it's not going to happen. In an interview, Oda was asked which supernova had more highlight scenes than he anticipated, and his answer was basically all of them, especially Law. The only supernova that he imagined becoming an important character was Eustace Kid. And if you recall in Sabaody when they were introduced, Eustace Kid was the only one that had a higher bounty than Luffy. Kid was always destined to be Luffy's greatest rival among the supernova, or his generation of pirates. I'm sure you guys already know what I'm going to say, so I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Shanks intentionally took Kid's left arm so that Kid could perform his role in the prophecy of Joy Boy. Basically, it has been foretold that Joy Boy's greatest rival of his own generation will be a one-armed red-haired guy with a scar over his left eye. Joy Boy will defeat them. I believe that this will happen in Elbaf. Kid will drag himself out of the water and have a final showdown with Luffy, and he will lose. Luffy doesn't know this, but it's all part of the plan. But of course, you guys can already see where else I'm going to take this. Blackbeard is also a Joy Boy candidate, and his greatest rival from his own generation is a one-armed red-haired guy with a scar over his left eye. Like Blackbeard, Luffy might defeat his mentor, but that won't stop Blackbeard from killing Shanks, and in so doing, fulfill that part of the prophecy for himself. So let's go ahead and end this theory. I failed to mention this before, but I think the mentor of prophecy, an aspect of this is that they are also supposed to be the person closest to obtaining the One Piece. So when Blackbeard killed Whitebeard at the time was the closest man to the One Piece. Everyone said that. It is said that Whitebeard guarded the throne. So I believe Shanks might be attempting to acquire Whitebeard's status in the world before he died. To fulfill his part of the prophecy, Shanks needs to guard the throne. Shanks needs to become the definitive person who's closest to One Piece. This being speculated, it potentially paints a clearer picture. This is why Shanks needs the 4 road poneglyphs. We know that he got 2 from Eustace Kid, the poneglyphs previously guarded by Big Mom and Kaido. I believe that he also obtained a road poneglyph in Elbaf. That is why he was there. That is my speculation for where the final road poneglyph is. And he almost definitely knows about the one in Zou because he traveled with Gold Roger. In fact, Nekomamushi and Inuarashi should be old friends. It's kind of interesting to think about. Would they attempt to stop Shanks from acquiring the final rubbing? I really don't think so. It's a possibility, but I really don't think so. Given Shanks is now likely leaving Elbaf, I think that his next destination is Zou, so by the time that the Strats head to Elbaf, he could already have all 4. He will literally be closest to the throne. The only thing that he might be lacking is a translator. Even though he probably possesses the ability to hear the voice of all things, even Roger wanted Odin, and I think it's because hearing the voices has limits. But if we're sticking with the idea that Shanks really has no use for the One Piece and actually doesn't intend to find it, like all of this is actually for Luffy, then this might become some of the stakes for a Shanks and Luffy battle, which I think will be legitimate. For instance, the winner gets Nico Robin. I know we speculated anyone and everyone going after Nico Robin, but what a wild twist it would be if the person that Nekomamushi warned them about all along was Shanks. Honestly, Oda would absolutely troll that hard. And if Shanks is trying to play a role as part of a prophecy, he's probably not going to hold back, which honestly will only make the encounter that much better and more legitimate. So we're just left needing to speculate when this battle occurs. Guys, it's implied that the final island that the crew is likely to visit before Laugh Tale is Lodestar. Lodestar is the final island of the New World of the Grand Line, the final island that the log poses actually point to. I think that this island is going to be crazy. According to Inuarashi, travelers who reach the island become aware of the poneglyphs, potentially the civilization that created them, as well as the hidden final island. This is the island which basically inspires the adventure for the poneglyphs. Very few ever reach this island, and once doing so, you have essentially conquered the Grand Line. So I kind of think that the moment that Luffy reaches this island, he will undoubtedly have become a great pirate. It'll be time to meet Shanks. In fact, I think that he will be waiting for Luffy there. As an aside, it's kind of weird that this is the island which inspires the adventure for the poneglyphs and potentially inspires the adventure for Laugh Tale. My headcanon is that for most of the time of the story, this island was not found. Roger was one of the first, if not the first, to find it. Actually reaching the island might be insanely difficult beyond anything that we have seen so far. Like, I'm talking about actual physical obstacles. But once Roger found it, I think that it became a place that a lot of pirates, a lot of yonko wanted to visit, like Big Mom and Kaido. And so the island kind of probably needed to be protected. So my opinion is that this duty was entrusted to Whitebeard for the majority of the story. Whitebeard literally guarded the throne by holding down Lodestar. And so when he fell, this was a duty that Shanks acquired. Basically, I believe that Lodestar is literally Shanks' territory. So once there, Luffy will be an invader, further justifying their fight. I kind of think it's initially a solo fight, like Luffy and crew versus Shanks and crew. No other distractions. I do think Luffy will win. But with this confrontation being imminent, likely the last stepping stone that the Strats will need before finding Laugh Tale, a lot of other factions such as Emu or Blackbeard will be following them. It could get wild. But if it really goes down like this actually tells you something that might be worthy of speculating. If Luffy defeats Shanks and crew, and then Blackbeard comes in and actually finishes the job and kills Shanks, so that for both Joy Boy candidates, all that is left is Laugh Tale, it wouldn't make too much sense for Luffy to defeat Blackbeard in Lodestar. So it makes me wonder whether we might see something like Shanks' last stand. When the Straw Hats defeat the red-haired pirates, they will then continue on to Laugh Tale. This part of the prophecy being fulfilled, the red-haired pirates will regroup and attempt to hold off everybody else, just the same as Whitebeard's final moments in Marineford. This was kind of a slow-paced video, but I really hope that you guys enjoyed it. I figured if I was gonna do it, I was gonna do it right. But if you guys did happen to make it through the entire video and are still confused as to what exactly the point was, the theory is basically the prophecies of Joy Boy are written on the poneglyphs, and Shanks is entirely aware of them. It is actually because he is aware of them that he did not pursue becoming Joy Boy himself, or really following directly in Roger's footsteps, which is by itself kind of a tragedy. Regardless, in Marineford, Whitebeard tells us that Roger was looking for somebody, and that it definitely wasn't Blackbeard. And who this somebody actually is very obvious given the recent developments of the story. Roger was clearly looking for Joy Boy, and he actually thought it would be his son. So because Shanks didn't believe that he could become Joy Boy himself, he instead dedicated his life to finding and nurturing this person, using the prophecies to help him. But the prophecies can serve more than one function. Not just finding the right guy, but also finding the person which might be their greatest enemy, and stop them. I very much think that there might be a duality in the nature of the prophecies, meaning depending on who actually fulfills them, the world could change in drastically different ways. This is why Shanks is so afraid of Blackbeard. He knows Blackbeard actually has a chance of becoming Joy Boy too, but his version of turning the world upside down, shaking it, and freeing it is not what he, his friends, and others have been yearning for. I didn't actually speculate this in the video, but you could absolutely go off if you feel inclined, right? You could ask the question of like, was Emu a Joy Boy candidate during the Void Century? Is he effectively your Blackbeard that won, in the process defeating the Nika Joy Boy? And to me, it definitely seems possible, although I'm not sure it's actually what I believe. But in many previous videos, I have speculated my personal belief is that the three primordial gods of the One Piece world are the sun, the moon, and the sea. These gods may be trapped as fruits now, but their conflict has been eternal, inherited through the ages. And in my opinion, the three representatives in the current story are Luffy as the sun god, Blackbeard as the moon god, and Emu as the sea god, or the devil of the sea. So the prophecies might actually refer to these three characters as well, more specifically. But Blackbeard as the moon reflects the light of the sun, and light in this case represents your dreams. Just the same as Luffy, he is in fact a dreamer, but the dreams that he represents are those that never escape the night, and are never meant to reach the dawn. So the dreams of the moon ascending to the sky, rising as the dawn, taking the place of the sun, could be cataclysmic. But while headcanons aside, all of this can potentially help paint a clearer picture about Shanks' motives, and everything that he has done or will do. And the same is probably true of Blackbeard. So in essence, Shanks has become a lot like Blackbeard, a parallel to him and a foil of him, just the same as Luffy, but in a different way, a direct and destined enemy. But anyway guys, a reminder that the Blackbeard video that I referenced is still in the description if you guys haven't watched it. These two videos go together. And as always, share your thoughts, your observations, let me know what you think. But yeah guys, if you're interested, check out my book The Booms, link in the description. Remember to like the video, subscribe, click the bell to be notified, join the squad, and as always guys, have a wonderful day.